Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Pioneers Pathway podcast with me, Sharia, joined as always by my good friend, Mr. Liam Villani. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How about you?
All well, my friend, all well.
How's
So,
everything
how's
been
it been?
going? Good week. Good week for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Been quite busy. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's been a busy week over here. Busy week over here. Yeah, just loads of things going on. It's sort of a busy time of the year, right? Halloween's coming up, and it's near the end of the year. December's coming up, so a lot of projects, things trying to sort of finish up. So yeah, busy time.
Talking of busy, we have a very busy and important person joining us today on the podcast. What can you tell us about him, Liam?
So I've known Vinay for just over a year now. Although we have quite a bit of shared history, right? Most of our listeners will know me and Shari went to the same high school, and Vinay actually went to the same school as us as well. He was there a couple of years before after us. So was a couple of years younger to me and Sharia. We've got a lot of shared history, but yeah, I've got to know Vinny a lot over the last year. He's a great guy, and just very happy to have him on today.
Welcome, Vinay. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you for having me. Bit ill, but always raving and ready to go. So yeah, I'm good.
No worries. There's always something going around at this time of year, isn't there?
Yeah,
And
So,
that's the blessing of doing it remotely as well.
yeah,
You
exactly.
can nothing's gonna stop us.
so yeah, I mean, Vinay, do you want to tell us what you've been up to these days? I know you run a kind of a non-profit society at Warwick. Do you want to, tell our listeners a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm Vinay. I'm in the third year doing politics at Warwick in the UK. And yeah, I run one of the things that I do is I run a society that I founded last year, say summer last year, called Warwick Speakeasy. And what it is it's a free speech society at the university. We want to promote open debate and discussion. We believe that debating is good. We believe debating in good faith is even more important. We believe in attracting a diversity of opinion. And yeah, we host speaker events. We can talk more about that after. We host discussions. We like collabing. We'll collab with anyone and everyone. So we've been trying to do that. We're also starting a podcast, although we've done a few test episodes. We haven't released anything yet. And we have big plans. So I'm very lucky. I work with an exec of 11 who are from across the political spectrum. We disagree a lot with each other, but we all respect each other enough to debate. I think we have very good company culture and team working. So yeah, that's what it is. It's new. It's been going for about a year now. But it's been very exciting. There's a lot that I've learned from it, which maybe we can talk about. So yeah, that's an overview of this society.
Maybe Sharia, before we go ahead, just so that all our listeners know, because I know we get a broad audience here, and not a lot of people know about UK universities, societies. Vinay, maybe if you just explain sort of how a society works,
Mm.
what kind of organizations are they? Because they're not something that can be easily sort of set up, can they? It's something that takes a lot of time and a lot of planning to get through.
Yeah, it's like founding. I would describe it or analogize it. That's a word to something like a startup, basically. So at universities like in the UK, we have like a lot of universities will have societies. Warwick, for example, has very good societies. I think we have over 200 societies or something, ranging from all sorts of random things to salsa society, which I'm in, and everyone should try, and also something crazy to like cheese and chocolate. So we have very big societies, but they're basically like little startups, little kind of organizations. And in terms of setting it up, well, my society isn't registered with the student union, although that's a choice that I made consciously. But how you go about setting it up is it's as Liam says, it's quite a lot of work because you have to have an idea. So I had this idea probably about February or April in 2023. Then you have to pitch it to your friends or people you would want to help you. Then they have to like it. And then you have to find the team, a broader culture, people who want to find it. Then you've actually got to do it. And then you've actually got to put stuff on. So it's a lot of I spent a lot of time last summer. I basically I mean, other than relaxing and going on holiday and everything, but I spent a lot of my time till late at night working on the society, thinking about the aims, thinking about who we're going to get. But again, it's like any startup, right? Like the founder or the people involved put a lot of effort in because like no one else is going to do it. But if you have the passion, that will spur you forth. So that's how it goes, I would say, in terms of setting it up, if that makes sense.
And so, what was the inspiration behind it, right?
Yeah.
Because, obviously we went to the same school, had sort of like, a similar upbringing in that sense, sort of learnt the same things. Now, what was the inspiration behind setting this up?
I mean, the inspiration came from university actually. Like at school, I was interested in politics. And school was the time where I really, I think, especially in sixth form, was the time where I consolidated a lot of my academic thinking about things that I'm interested in studying now. But what inspired me actually was two things. One of them was something that happened before the second thing happened. So when I got to university, like I'm, very lucky, and Liam had this experience as well. Like we were both very lucky to have gone to a very good university, one of the best universities in the country, and for our subject, like one of the top ones. And as a result, it's no surprise you're going to meet some very clever, very, very, very clever people. So I'd have discussions with people one on one about politics. I love discussing politics, psychology, other life stuff. And I thought, oh my God, like I've had such good chats one on one with these really, really, really intelligent people. If we got them all in the same room, like what the power of that would be, well, manifold, I would say. So I had this, what I call an academic fantasy to kind of get a bunch of people like that in the same room discussing, debating, learning. So it's an idea I had in the back of my mind, but it only really came into fruition in April 2023. So one of the biggest, most life-changing moments for me, and Liam knows this story, was an event I went to in April 2023, where I met someone from the House of Lords, who's been a great help to me and very big inspiration to me. And she basically got me involved in this network that I'm now in, where you meet some very crazy. I'm not gonna like name drop or anything, but like very big people who are doing very big things. And you meet young people, you meet people and doing politics, journalists, like people making decisions. People have, I don't like thinking about it, so it's true, but people have power basically. And as a result, I was made aware of students kind of interested in the same things that I am, which is freedom of speech, debating, discussing all the things Speakeasy is trying to do. And I thought, well, my few of they're now friends of mine were trying to do the same things at their uni. So I thought, okay, I could do it. Maybe if no one's gonna do it, then I might as well do it. And I'm very happy I did it. So yeah, it was the kind of pre fantasy and the post and during event kind of yeah, like revelation actually that these kind of things are possible. So there's kind of two inspirations.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty interesting. So, what was it like meeting all these, guys at the House of Lords, House of Commons, pretty big names? Because, for a university student, you see these guys on TV all the time, but, when you
Yeah.
see them in person, it's a completely different experience. So, what was
Yeah,
that like
it's
for
quite
you?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny because I've been very lucky in the last year and a half to have met some quite big people and, go to some really cool events. And you get to see things that people don't usually see. Like, you get to see politics and actions behind the scenes. And it's funny because a lot of them are very similar to how they like on the TV, actually. Like, you think a lot of politicians are performing and they're putting on personas and maybe they're just that good that they're doing it in real life. But there is something about them that is their personality. But also, one other thing I would say is the generosity of people like that they're actually very generous people, and especially to young people. Like I think a lot of what's happened to me has happened partly because of people's kindness. Like especially for young person interested in these sorts of things, people seem to really pick up on that and seem to really respect that and therefore will do really nice things for you, like say invite you to an event or let you know about a conference or help subsidize something or give you just even if it's guidance or invite you to like a dinner or like something really like small, not small, like something for them that is big, but for me is like it's not small. Like it really goes a long way. So yeah, these people are actually a lot of them. It depends on who they are, but they're very kind and very generous. And I guess we are the next generation is Gen Z, and these people, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way you want to put it, regardless of your politics, won't be around in the future. Um, so no, it's actually a really nice surprise, and it's actually really nice to see actually.
So does that sort of change your opinion? I mean, did you have any preconceptions before you met them, and then after you met them, like in person, you felt about them could be different? I know you said like, their personas tend to be quite similar, but was there any sort of do you have any sort of change in mindset after meeting
Um,
them?
I think it depends on the person, and I don't want to go into the specific people, but more broadly, I think one thing I would say is, like everyone, they're just people. Like we're all just people. So, when and you guys have probably done this in your fields, like when you've met someone who's at the top of their field, there is a sense of awe, being like, oh my God, they're top of the hierarchy, like they're the boss. You know what I mean? Like, they're sick, like they're really cool, they're like the best in their field. And for me, when I'll introduce myself to people like that, I'm, oh my God, like, I really like what you have to say, or I really respect your work, whatever. But you realize, like, okay, if you meet them once, then you see that. But if you get to know them, you realize they're just normal people. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the kind of platonic infatuation, I call it, like the idea of them is this sort of like God, like, oh my God, they're so, like they're actually just normal. So I would say you see them as people, and that's what happens when you form relationships with anyone, but especially people like that. And I think they're very wise as well. I think like people like that, they're in the top of their field, right? So there's at least one thing you could learn from them. And they're also incredibly well connected and incredibly kind. So I would say it's the persona. There's a person behind the mask. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
So Shai, I just wanted to pick up on that sort of the people. That you're not seeing them more as like just because of their title. It's because of the person, the
Yeah.
character they are. How does that sort of lead into sort of you as a founder trying to get people around you who are the best for advice and support, right? Because you're obviously looking to build a team, you're looking
Yeah.
to get people to come and volunteer their time. It's not You're not paying them, you're
Not at
volunteering.
all.
And that requires a certain level of commitment, right? So how have you sort of gone through navigating the HR process behind what you've done?
I think it's the vision has to be appealing. Like, look, I'm not a business guy. Like, I don't understand any of this like startup finance speak. Like, I'm a politics student. I don't get any of it. But one thing I've learned is vision is appealing. All right. Like you have to have a gap in the market for your enterprise. Otherwise, that you don't get to decide if it's good. The market gets to decide. A, if there's an opportunity, and B, if it's actually good. So I think why this happened is because of the vision. Because our remit is very open. We're not political. That's the first thing. So we're actually more universal. We don't want anything in return. Like we're not trying to make profit because we have sponsorship, and I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to, obviously I want to make money when I'm older, but at this stage of my life, I don't really care about that. And also, I think what we're offering is something that there is a genuine gap for, and I think that's why it's worked. Is because we have, as I say, 11, which is crazy. I'm like, how am I? Part of me thinks sometimes that how am I qualified to like lead 11 people? I'm like, I barely know what I'm doing myself, but maybe my exec would disagree. But the serious point behind that is we're very our vision is just having discussion. And again, that's a universal human thing. Like, having discussion is what we do all the time. We need to debate in order to function as a society. A company needs to have open discussion. We can talk more about this after. In order to even work, so all we're offering is we just want to have debates. We want to have discussion. We want you guys to disagree. We want you guys to learn. I want to learn. Like, I don't know anything. I'm stupid, right? I want to listen. If I listen, maybe I might learn something. And seemingly what's happened is 11 people. Last year it was 9. This year it's 11, including this year first years who weren't even like aware of the society before, from a whole array of backgrounds. Like we have people in our exec who are international students. I have people from Africa, from Greece, from China. Like again, the free speech has a different aspect in each of those different countries. We're a very diverse team, and personally, not to play politics, I'm not actually a fan of striving for kind of diversity as an end goal. But I believe if your aims are open, you will attract diversity. So I think that's why it's worked, is because we're genuinely committed to the vision. There's no malign motif behind it. And I think as a result, things have just worked, and we've got a team, and yeah, and we all are very good friends, and we all respect each other. And that's really a beautiful thing, actually. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question somewhat.
Yeah, I surely agrees that it does. So I sort of have a follow-on question leading from that. So
Uh-huh.
I know I tend to think a lot on the business side, right? Businesses tend to have like an array of advisors, but sometimes they don't get the right people on board, right? I know you have 11 execs. So how did you know who was right for you?
Good question. My friend and I, who's our vice president, shout out to him because he knows who he is if he's even listening. He said to me, he said, Vinay, he said, we have to find the best people in the university. And I'm like, okay, there are some crazy people here in a cool way. Like, that's a big task. But we were very stringent, I think, about who we chose because I, as a person, even in my life with my friendships or relationships, or whatever, like, I have very high standards. But that's not because I like to think that's not because I'm an arrogant narcissist. It's rather because I want to hold myself to those standards. I want to be surrounded by the best people so I can learn from them and so that we can all reap the rewards that come with that. So the way we chose our team was very much predicated on that idea. Like we want people who are exceptional, people who are willing to give their time, people who are committed, and people who can help us make this better. Because again, as my vice president says, like this is one of his famous maxims: we're just a bunch of kids. Like we don't know what we're doing. But if we bring all of us together in a culture, in a team, in an environment where these ethics are sort of flowing through, then we'll get something like that. So what we did is very simple. We just had like a form on our Instagram. We just wanted to know people's skills, like a classic interview, like people's skills, people's experience. And then we interviewed them, but it wasn't formal. It was very chill. And we just chose the best people. And I'm very, very happy with who we've got. We seriously have our executives, there's some of the most inspirational, intelligent, caring, kind people I've ever met in my life. And I think we're going to be like so close. And in the future, it's going to be so cool to see what they all do individually because they're all incredible at what they do. And for me, that's really inspiring because I'm like, there's so much benefit from that. So yeah, the way we did it is we just had high standards and they seem to want to come. And you know what baffles me sometimes? I'm like, my exec put a lot of effort into the society, and sometimes people think it's like you're doing this for free. Like, why? Not why. Obviously, I'm grateful, but part of me thinks like you're putting in so much time. You're going above and beyond. Like they all, and they know who they are. Like, put so much effort and time in, and I'm like, okay, A, I'm grateful, but B, like, why would you do that? And clearly, there must be something there that's appealing. So I think it's about having high standards and holding yourself to those standards and learning from those people, because that helps you as an individual, and that's definitely happened. So that's the route we went down, and hopefully it's paid off.
Great. So I just have, another question because obviously, end of the day, a lot of things can't function without money. Money, the cause of root evil, it makes the world run, right? I know it's a non-profit. I know you're not doing this for money, but end of the day, to run something, money is key, right? So how
Yes.
have you got about, securing funding for,
Yeah.
your non-profit?
Oh well, yeah.
And
Well,
and
yeah.
Vinay, just to link back to that, how do you run the organization financially, right? So
Yes.
well, how does money come into your day-to-day activities as
Yeah.
well? And the mentality behind that.
Yeah, so we're very lucky that there's a organization that gives grants to societies just like ours, and that's good because actually a lot of as you guys might know and the audience might know, especially the ones at unis, trying to secure funding for a student society is crazy. Like I was in the exec of another society in first year, and all summer the sponsor spreadsheet was like dead. It was like, oh my god, this company rejected us, this company rejected us. So it is difficult. But again, I think because we're quite niche and there's a company out there who's giving quite a generous amount of money for the societies exactly like ours, we just got lucky. That's how, and as a result, we have quite a generous investment. Um, and as a result, answering Liam's questions, it means that we can. Well, it's actually interesting because a lot of our speakers don't usually ask for anything. They don't really. Some have, but again, I think a lot of them I have either met before, or I know of them, or someone I know knows them. So I kind of have a personal way in, which actually seems to help quite a lot. The ones that have, again, we can afford it, and also we most of our we give food at our events. We like spoiling people because again, we don't want anything in return. We want people to come, even if people don't like us. I want them to come and to come and discuss with us, and to. It's a very hospitable thing. Like I literally don't want anything in return. So funding comes in mainly when it comes to event costs, speakers' expenses, if necessary. Also, one thing this year we're trying to do more. This is a thing I learned from Stephen Bartlett, who is one entrepreneur I love. To death. And one thing Stephen Bartlett's big on is experimenting. But just try random stuff. Invest a little bit in this, see if it works. But importantly, fail fast. So if your idea is not good, obviously don't do it, but learn the lessons from it. So I think the investment's obviously really important. But it's, of course, how it's used and to what aims it's done. And again, a lot of our events and stuff. Sorry.
Vinny, I was just going to point on just to sort of focus on something you've just said. But if we keep going, we'll keep going, and I'll forget to question you. In terms of the investment, because it's quite interesting. You're calling it an investment, right?
Sure.
So it's an investment. That people seek something in return, and so obviously, I want to ask: do the people who are willing to give you money, do they seek something in return? Because they might not be the people who want to seek a dividend or a financial reward, but they want to see results, right? And do you think people increasingly, even for the non-profit sector, they are very, very they hold you to account? And is that accountability a good thing, or do you find that to be a drain on sort of your ability to lead?
I mean, just in our instance, we're very lucky that the organization is very chilled out. Like they just want to see results. Because again, it's like it's not an investment, it's a grant. So it's like an investment, you could say. Like it's akin to one. Which has been really nice for us because it's as long as we're growing and doing stuff, it's not really a problem. As long as we're promoting our aims and doing exactly what we said, which I think we are, we're trying to grow bigger and better. We've been very lucky to have some very big speakers, which people can see on our Instagram at Warwick Speakeasy. I'll plug that more at the end, but just a slight plug for now. People are, so it's as a result, so long as there are results, I don't think there's a problem. In terms of broader, like in terms of your question about investment and accountability, look, I personally wouldn't know because again, I'm only like involved in the things that I do. But one thought I would have is that it is true. It depends on who your investor is. So if you're given money by an investor, by like a millionaire or a VC or something, depends on their terms, right? And you could say that gives them a sense of power over you. But then I would say you should probably choose your investors carefully. Now that's difficult in an oversaturated market. I completely understand that. And trying to even secure funding for any venture now is difficult. I was at the only like business event I've been to was a conference in April this year at King's. There's a King's entrepreneur conference, and people were pitching for their startups. And I just thought, oh my god, like this is so competitive. I think I'm lucky just because my thing is in niche and it's in a completely different sector. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but maybe there's something useful in there.
I think there is. No. I'm just going to say. I think Shao, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of parallels between startups, or entrepreneurial sort of for-profit ventures and the non-profit. It's an organization. I think it's probably even harder to tackle the non-profit model because yes, you're not getting a you are heavily reliant on the so-called investors. You're not going to get to or well, it'll be hard to get to financial self-sufficiency, right? So you're always beholden to outside external forces, which
yes.
They have their own motives and they have their own sort of mentality, and they will obviously try to put that onto you. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes it can be a roadblock.
Yes, no, that's very true.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, I
Shari,
mean,
please go on.
yeah, no, I mean, exactly, because in terms of a nonprofit, you're really relying on the altruism of your investors because they're not getting any, return out of it. If you approach a VC, obviously they're going to take some of your equity. If you approach an angel investor, they want some of your equity. You approach a bank, whatever. But, with this nonprofit, you're really relying on the generosity. So that sort of just leads me on to this question. So startups, I know again, we're sort of drawing parallels here, right? But startups often face, rejections from potential investors.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would have done that as well. So how did you sort of deal with that rejection? And
I
what's
mean,
your sort of advice for anyone who has dealt with
dealing
it?
with rejection. Well, I mean, we're lucky that we didn't get rejected, but that was probably really lucky because that does not happen. So if we didn't have this grant, then well, I think we could still run, but it would be harder. So so I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question. But in terms of dealing with rejection, well, if you like the thing, then you'll probably keep going anyway. That's what I would say. Like if you were passionate, you keep going, and rejection's gonna happen like anywhere in life. Obviously, in business, it's really commonplace. But I would also say keep maybe introspectively think about why. That's always a really good thing to do. Like why did you get rejected? Why did the VC not want to fund you, or why did the market not like your idea? Well, it might be A, it might just be oversaturated. B, you might not actually like the product. I think that's a really important thing as well. Like one of the actual pieces of business advice I've got, and again, because like I don't, I feel so underqualified to say this, but like you have to love what you're doing. Like otherwise, if I didn't love this, I wouldn't do it because I'm selfish, right? And I think most humans are kind of like that. So reassess. And again, there are people that I know who have done startup ventures, but they don't like the product, and they're just trying. Their end is, oh, I want to make money. So their god is, I want to make money, and therefore their whole everything they're doing is oriented towards making money, not the product. So I think rejection is a really good thing in life, in all facets, macro, micro, individual, whatever, because it teaches you to be introspective and it teaches you to ask why, like Socrates did. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think people should just reassess. And it might just be that it just didn't work out. Okay, just try again. But I would say don't give up because so many people, it's so cliche, but so many people are just like, oh, forget it. Now, everyone in life, the thing you were taught when you were 4 in school was like, don't give up, keep going. But I think there really is a point to that, but you have to have the passion as well.
It's quite interesting. It sort of leads into sort of free speech in general, and sort of teamwork, free speech,
Yeah.
and how that kind of links back to the business world, right? Because everyone always has their ideas, and it's about people speaking up, which
Yeah.
is going to bring the innovation. It's going to bring the change, right?
Uh-huh.
So do you think do you think in the business industry in general, free speech is important? Do you think there is enough? Do you think there needs to be more in terms of driving innovation, driving change in that field? I know you
Uh-huh.
said your focus is nonprofits. But obviously free speech is something that you've looked at for quite a long time. Do you think that it's under delivered?
I think theoretically, I can answer it theoretically, not kind of personally, but I would say that look, in society, there's many arguments for free speech, but in the workplace, I think that's one of the most important places. Like teams only flourish if you work together, right? So you have to collaborate with the people that you're your colleagues and friends or whatever. And if you don't listen to them, you're going to alienate them, and then they're not going to be part of the team. And then the productivity is going to go down, and you're not going to get anywhere. So, so I think the bare minimum, yeah,
It's hard. It's hard in a sense, because a business is so time constrained, right? So there's never enough time to be able to fully exhaust that sort of debate process, right? And you've also got sort of status.
true,
The older or the more time you've been in a company, people see you as having sort of senior status, and maybe there's the thought, oh, we don't want to go up against you. We don't want to challenge,
maybe,
right? And that's something which you find in varying industries, right? The people in the previous generation think their practices are the best, and so people
yeah.
with new ideas don't want to speak up, and that's why things take a long time to sort of change over and innovate.
It's true. No, this is very true. And yes, I do get, especially in a big company, in a big corporation, you little man at the bottom. I think we should change that. Like, you think no one's gonna, But I would say companies should have those mechanisms in place, and they do. And again, which is nice. Like companies are very big now on listening to their employees. which would help, because otherwise their employees would just leave. Well, maybe they might not be able to leave, but they'd alienate them, and then working for them wouldn't be fun. Um, but I think the best leaders and the best people listen. Like again, there's an incredible book which you might have heard of, but the title is really something: How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right? So you influence by listening to people and like caring about them and being interested in them. You'll influence them, not in a Machiavellian way, not like I'm going to manipulate you and control you or whatever. Try that. I don't know how long it will last, but rather because you might actually form a relationship with them, and then people are more likely to do things for you. Not again, not in a Machiavellian way, but because you're listening to them. So I think the best leaders are the ones who always listen, who are always like, this is something that I try and do a lot. Like, I always tell my exec, like, tell me why I'm wrong, because I actually don't know. And then my friends will tell me how I'm wrong. And then I think, oh my God, that's actually so smart. Now, to replicate that at the corporate level, that's quite difficult. But I think we all have power individually to be able to do that. Whether it's a leader that's listening more to your team, humbling yourself a little bit, or as a team worker, being more assertive, being more disagreeable. That's a personality trait where you're more assertive and say, actually, I don't think this is a good idea, or in my opinion, X, Y, and Z. And again, you don't need to say it in a like, oh, you're wrong. If you went up to someone and said, you're wrong, and here's 10 reasons why, like, that's quite malign, spiteful. Whereas if it was, I have a concern, I might be wrong, but I just want to raise it, you'll probably feel better and the person will probably respect you more. And I think that can have a trickle up effect when it comes to productivity. That's why free speech is so important in the workplace. That's one of them. Corporation relies on free speech, and we need that in order for companies to be productive and actually function and go to heights unknown. Yes, you need the entrepreneurial mindset, but you need the team. The leader's nothing without the team. Like, you can't do anything without them.
I sort of have a question on that.
Okay,
do you want to go ahead? Okay,
I'll feed it afterwards.
Sure. So it's sort of leading on from something you said. So in that example you gave of you versus your execs, for example, say you feel so passionate about one idea, but the rest of, the group feel they have a completely conflicting view.
Uh-huh.
How do you balance, your really strong passion and gut feeling versus what they're saying?
Well, we have to discuss it. That's the first thing. Like, there has to be a debate. I mean, especially in my society, like, we have to debate it. And we will do that. We've done this so many times where we've had an idea and then we'll get all in the same room and then we'll kind of hash it out. And then one of us will be like, okay. Okay. So but again, that relies on respect. That wouldn't happen if we didn't have respect for each other. If we didn't have respect for each other, A, we wouldn't have even showed up, and B, there wouldn't have even been a debate, and C, like, some tyranny would have happened. So the way to mediate that, in my opinion, is to have, it's about the company culture you create. It's about the ethic you create. It's about the sort of, the meta value running through your culture, which is discussion, debate, inquiry. Especially if the whole society is about that. The least the exec could do would be to adhere to those ideas. Now, in terms of a scenario where there's someone who's say I have an idea and the exec go, oh, I don't like that. Now, not the cool thing is, because as Winston Churchill said, with great power comes great responsibility. Is yes, I do get the final say, but I think if there's an instance where the team is against you and you're like on your high horse, being like kind of somewhat narcissistic, like, I'm right and you guys are wrong. It's like, I don't think that's the right aim, because I think if you were, this is a philosophical answer, like, if people you respect and trust tell you that, then you probably have done something a little bit wrong. Even if it's like 1%, you probably did something wrong, right? Especially if it's all 10 of them, then I think, yeah, I probably screwed up. Or they've all gone crazy, which I doubt would happen because there's not enough, 10 good people going crazy is too many. So I do think the way to do it, to be more serious for a sec, is just to have it out and to discuss it and to remember the importance of individual responsibility and how in any situation you might have made the situation worse. I really believe that. I really believe that we have so much agency in the world to make it better, but we also, because we're all selfish, we do make things worse. But we have to admit those things and humble ourselves, and then we'll have respect for each other. So that's how I would go about mediating that, if that makes sense.
Great. Liam, do you want to ask a question?
No, I actually think what I was going to ask was kind of answered in that, which is great. But maybe we can just moving on from that. Maybe
okay. Sorry, just one last question
talk
on this topic then. Okay, so sorry about that, Liam. So basically, a couple weeks back, I put out, poll thing on Instagram, and we got one question relating to this. It's from one of our listeners. The question is, what is the definition of a decent work culture in the workplace?
Mm, Well, I refer to what I just said, respect. That's like the essence of like anything, any relationship is predicated on respect and care. But not like, again, I'm a politics student, so I will waffle for a bit about this, but I think it's really important. Not care in the people pleasing way. Not like, oh, so for example, in a leadership situation, especially if you're intimidating, assertive, it's very easy to it depends on your personality type, but I think it's quite tempting to want to people please someone and be like, oh, you're right, you're all right, like you're doing the right thing, and then like the car crash is coming, and then you're kind of like, oh, it's fine, don't worry, and like while the house is burning, you're like, oh, it's fine. So I think that's actually a terrible thing. Like I call it Oedipal care, when you're devouring the person and not caring. Care is like telling someone, and again, if you have a good relationship with your team and your people, whatever, then you will mediate this. Care is telling someone, I actually think you're wrong. And I'm not telling you this because I hate you. No, I'm telling you this because I actually have respect for you. I've had that. That's happened to me, in with my exec. Certain members of my exec, again, they know who they are as well, have told me things that has surprised me. But it's because they care. It's easy to go, oh, they hate me, like, oh, I'm such a terrible leader. But it's like, no, maybe I am, I probably have something to learn. So, in order for the workplace culture to flourish, you have to have respect for each other, for your team, for your leader, vice versa. But also, you have to care about them and you have to point out the small things, because the small things go a long way. Not only for the relationship you have with people, but also for the longer vision. Because at the end of the day, in a startup, in a non-profit, in a new venture, which is exactly what I'm doing, like this is not like, so Liam knows this, but in our old school, I was head boy in my last year, and again, I had the head of sixth form guiding me. Right, he's kind of like God in like the Exodus story in the Bible. Like he's telling me where the promised land is and guiding me. But now there's no like head of sixth form. Do you know what I mean? There's no like guide. Yes, I've got. So we have to work together. We're in like the metaphorical desert, right? And we're trying to find the promised land. We're trying to, but we don't want to go back to tyranny. That's exactly what happens in that story, where we want to move forward. And therefore, the bare minimum you could do is listen and respect each other, because you're in a state of nature, right? You don't know what you're doing. So I can go, oh, yeah, this is the right way, guys. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on. Onward and upward. You guys are all wrong and stupid. Well, A, I'll probably lose on my team if I say that. And B, we're not going to achieve. I might win, but the team and the idea loses. So I think it comes back to everything I say, and Liam will know this because I don't stop talking about it. It all comes back to who you are and what your values are. And that's how I would answer that question. You have to respect and you have to care, but care in the right way, not in the devouring way.
Great, thank you. I think that's a perfect answer.
Sure, is that okay? Was there any other questions, or can I
Yeah, no, that
can I
was the
move
main
forward
one on
to
this
another
topic.
sort of different area going forward, sort of
Yeah.
next plans?
Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing? What in terms of the organization? Where do you see the growth opportunities?
Yes.
Where do you see your ability to influence? How is that going to happen? And what's your plans for your like the work climate, like the environment? How are you looking to grow your team? What's
Hmm.
your sort of next steps? And keeping that aligned with like how the world around you is growing.
No, this is a very good question. I would say one thing we need to get better at, and this is a feedback I've got, and I've been told this a lot, and I see it myself, is getting more into the ecosystem, and that means reaching out to people, collabing with people. Like we as I say, we'll collab with anyone and everyone, right? So long as they respect our values, which is open debate. It's that like which is very open and basic, like sort of thing. So we're trying to do that. We're trying to get more. We're trying to get more awareness out there. Um, because we can have big speakers. Okay, fine, but like people have to know about them. Like that's a marketing point. So it's definitely about showing that we're able to collab and doing those collabs, but also making us more personable, not as individuals, but as a society. because I think in the other societies that I'm in, not in exec roles, but just that I go to, you do see the exec. I mean, maybe this is just me, but I see you see these exec as some sort of like divine figures of authority. Like, oh my god, it's the exec of this society. But like, people actually have to know who the exec are as well. So I think one thing we did last year that we probably should do again is last year we didn't put enough of the human touch on who the exec were. So we're trying to do that.
So just to say, it's about being reachable.
Yeah,
Do you
100%.
think,
Like, who's
and
the
do you
man
think
behind the
as
mask?
leadership, a
Yes,
leadership quality is
yes,
being reachable?
100%, 100%. So we're trying to go for that. Obviously, we're trying to get as big as speakers as we can, and hopefully, we'll announce them soon, or maybe it might be out by the time this goes out. Our three speakers this term. Next term, I'm hopefully going to see if we can fill once a week, although that's a big aim, and we're working very hard on that behind the scenes. Our aim eventually, and again, this won't happen while I'm here because I'll be out. I would have graduated in July, is to make Warwick's version of the Oxford Union. Now, Warwick doesn't have that, right? Oxford, Durham, Cambridge, they were founded in the like it was like founded long before Warwick. Warwick was only founded in the 60s, right? And we don't have that. We don't have that sort of. I don't want to call it archaic, but that sort of historical culture of debate. We don't. Have, we You can even see it in our architecture. But I'm like, okay, maybe we could create our own traditions then. Maybe we could create our own sort of version of that. And yeah, so we want to take debating to the furthest heights that we can. So we're trying to lay the foundations for that. Like that's my aim in the last year. Like have the start, have the foundation, and then after I graduate, I'm very confident that this will succeed me. I've been talking to some of my exec about that, and I'm pretty confident about that. And yeah, then they can do what they want with it, and then hopefully the future generations of work students will want to do. Yeah,
I think it's important to accept your own immortality. Um,
I mean
if
mortality, not
your own,
immortality.
yes. Sorry, actually,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
your own mortality.
I wish I
And
was immortal. Yeah.
not in a very negative way, but just accepting that you're not going to be around if your organization is based on one person. And it's not correct, right? It's an organization which needs to be standalone from anyone there, right? And I think that's really important, and that's quite a self-reflecting kind of
Yeah,
note from someone who's taken it from nothing all the way to what it is.
look, yeah, like, I'm not going to be around here forever, like in life, but also at Warwick. And like, in the future, I'm very ambitious. I want to do big things with the politics work that I'm doing, and I want to, I see this as a practice round for something bigger, and therefore I have to take the right skills from it, but also enjoy the adventure. Because I'm like, if this goes far, then I'm like, then my work's done. All I wanted to do was just make someone debate. That's literally all I wanted to do. And now I'm like, if we can do this, then let's make it bigger. Let's take it as far as we can. The fact that, and I don't mean this gloatingly, it's more a reflection, introspective reflection, is the fact that people want to do this, as I said earlier, like still blows me away. I'm like, why would you want to do this? Like, yes, I have my own like personal fascinations, but like, why would 11 people want to sign up? Why would people even want to come? And maybe it's because we're offering something. And again, I'm not saying we are. Well, I would advocate that, but it seems that that's happening, and hopefully that will, spur the future forward. But as you say, I have to be realistic. Like, there's only so much I can do in a year, And I'll be honest, like, I feel this year we've had a bit more of a stagnant start. Partly that's because of just the way speakers work this year. Last year we kind of changed the structure around a bit. I'm hoping it will have long-term payoff, but it's a bit more of a short-term struggle. Whereas last year we were more kind of like, bang, we have to assert ourselves. Let's go. We got this. Da, 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 da. Whereas this year it's kind of like break, then something's coming. And again, maybe hopefully it'll be worth it. And again, you have to accept your limits. Like I have high standards, but I also do a lot of other things, right? And all of our exec, we also do. We're all very busy, and we do a lot of like 100 other things. So there's only so much time I can put into it. But I guess at the end of the day, just have to do your best. I can have these standards being like, oh, I want to break the Oxford Union, but as long as we tried, and as long as I put my best, then I'm not saying sometimes your best isn't good enough, but if your best is all you can do, then that's better than not doing your best. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to understand some of the stuff down because it's so interesting. There's a lot there, right? It's quite it's taken a long-term vision, but a vision which is loads of little things which is going into that at the moment, and will always go into that, right? Vision's not something which is stagnant, is it? It's
No.
changing. It's changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it changes with the times and it changes with the team members. Like another thing that's happened is since we've had this sort of introduction of first, well, they're now in second years, but first years, it's funny because their perspective is really interesting. Like
Yeah.
whereas when we founded this, it was more like, oh, this is what we've. But now because they've seen it from the outside and gone, actually, how about we do this? And you're like, oh, actually, that's really smart. So it's about that's why diversity of opinion is so important because everyone sees it from a different angle, and I think that's the best you can do. In that, that's the best you can do, and that's the only thing you can do is listen and respect and care, and that will get you somewhere. And I think it will actually get you more than where you thought you could go. I
Yeah.
think that's how you succeed in these sorts of things. Or so or rather that's what's worked so far. I don't know if it's success, but it's worked for now.
Very, really good stuff. I would obviously you mentioned you do a lot of things outside this. So
Yes.
I want to learn more about Vinay, behind the mask. So how do you
That's cool.
unwind after doing all these, billion things?
Yeah. What was the question? Sorry.
So how do you unwind after doing all
Oh, how
these
do I
billion
unwind? Okay,
things?
right. Liam knows what, and all my friends listening know exactly what I'm going to say. So I do. So yes, I do a lot of politics stuff. I spend a lot of my time doing politics. But I had a revelation last Christmas and beginning of second year saying, if I'm only good at politics, then that's like a bit shit, isn't it? That's not really that good. That's what was on my CV and in my life and that's not good. So I do two things to unwind, or three things. One of them, I do jujitsu. I do Japanese jujitsu. I started doing that a year ago. Definitely humbling and definitely like tough. But I've learned so much from doing it. It's very meaningful. I'll save the best for last, so I'll go in reverse. I love listening to podcasts. Again, all my friends
I
know
assume
this.
ours as well. That's the main one you listen to.
Podcast, Stephen Bartlett, Jordan Peterson, Chris Williamson, Lex Friedman, Andrew Huberman, like my absolute heroes. So I love listening to podcasts. But the best thing that I do is salsa dancing, which is
Okay.
so much seriously. Like I started it in January. I've been doing it for 10 and a half months now. It's out of everything that I do, even all the politics opportunities, that is my favorite thing. So I'm part of Salsa Society at university. So I dance salsa and bachata. I don't know if anyone's heard of bachata. Personally, I think bachata is better, but that's a bit of a polemic opinion in the salsa world. I talk about free speech and debating. So yeah, so I started doing that in January. Fell in love. It was so scary the first time I did it, but I fell in love with it. I did it all over London, all across summer. So I danced probably 6 or 7 hours a week. Even now, I probably dance about 4 or 5. I never miss Monday and Friday salsa. My exec no, never. We never do events on Monday and Friday nights because there are more important things to wait. And I actually, well, we'll see if I in, but I actually just auditioned for the bachata team about 2 hours ago. Because we're gonna have a bachata team this year at Warwick. So if I get into that, I'll be on a performance team. Something I never thought would happen to me because I never even thought I would dance. But yeah, no, I love Latin dance, as my friends know. Salsa and bachata I don't shut up about it. It's so much fun. Everyone listening should try it. It will change your life. Yeah, do it and reap the many, many, many rewards that come from it. So yeah, that's me outside of politics. I like to keep busy and do random things and just enjoy the adventure of life that brings. So yeah, that's me.
I've done boxing, so I can definitely vouch for the humbling part in terms of like martial
Very much
arts.
so.
So, what's the biggest thing you've learned from, say, for example, salsa dancing, the jujitsu,
I
all
love
these
these
things? What's the
questions.
biggest thing you've learned?
That you can do it if you really want. It's that simple. Like there's a like is it a ska like reggae song? You can get it if you really want, but you must try and try. And it's so true. So for me, like I never saw myself as a martial art. I mean, I'm a yellow belt, so I'm like second lowest belt, but like at least I got somewhere with it. Dancing, no way. I'm like you doing dancing. Like if you told me a year ago, I'd be like, what? Like you, who is this guy? You're not the same person. But the answer is you can do it. Like you can do it if you want. And for me, like I'm a very self-doubting person. I'm very conscientious. I'm my biggest critic. And the way as I've learned, this comes from Alex Hormozy, who's talk about entrepreneurs, incredible entrepreneur, a very successful man and incredibly articulate. And one of his pieces of advice that stuck with me is the way to become confident isn't shouting affirmations in the mirror, saying, "Oh, I'm good." Like otherwise, you wouldn't be depressed or upset. But is to build an undeniable stack of proof that says you are who you say you are. Okay, the way to so if my mind is bad at dancing, I'm like, okay, let's just go do dancing then. Let's just go face some fears. Let's do it, right? And the answer, and I've learned like now when I dance, like I used to be very self-conscious about dancing. Like, oh my God, at parties which I barely go to, or in family gatherings, I get so self-conscious, being like, "Oh, I can't dance, you know what I mean? I'm the guy who belongs in the library. You know, I'm the guy who can tell you about like fucking Thomas Hobbes, but not about like bachata or something. But again, you show up, you go through the motions, and then now, like I don't even think about it. I love it. I don't even care because I know what I'm doing now. And you have that confidence in yourself. And that self-confidence is very powerful in other facets. So I would say you actually have so much agency and you have so much ability to change yourself in the ways that you want. And also do it unapologetically. That's another thing I would say. Like, don't people please, like ever. It's such a terrible thing. Like, just do it because you don't know who you could become, and you actually don't know who you could become. I never thought I'd become this person, but I just followed my nose in that sense, and now I seem to be a bit more all-rounded. And that's not why I did it, but it made me that, if that makes sense. So long-windedly, I'm saying you can get it if you really want, and you can do it if you really want.
Great. Perfect answer, I guess. Again. So what I want to do now is we have this segment called investors presentation because obviously we
Okay.
tend to, we talk a lot of business startups. So I'm
Yeah, of
going to
course.
keep the same name, but it's a rapid fire. So I'm
Okay.
just going to shoot away. I'm going to get you to expand on a few questions here and there.
For sure. For sure.
But most inspiring, speaker or professor you've ever heard.
Oh, probably Jordan Peterson. I'm a big fan of him. He massively changed my life. So I think he's a very powerful orator and very inspirational and clearly had a lot of impact on me, but also thousands and I would say a million young people and has really brought them back. So I would say, yeah, I would choose him.
If you weren't studying politics, what would you be studying?
Psychology. Like, yeah, without it, I love psychology. I'm terrible at it. I call myself a pop psychologist, so I like to think I know about psychology, but I love psychology. I think to understand life, you have to understand human behavior, personality, why we do what we do. So yeah, personal psychology without a doubt.
Okay, the next one, you probably answered it, earlier, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. One entrepreneur you look up to and why?
Oh, Stephen Butler. Yeah, like I mean, he's so popular now at the minute. I mean, his podcast is absolutely incredible, and he's an incredible person. I haven't met him. I want to, but from what I've seen, he's absolutely incredible person. Yeah, because he just again he embodies what I was saying about respect, caring, and listening, and he's so humble. And he's really inspiring. I love his vlogs. He doesn't make them anymore, but he made a bunch of vlogs earlier this year where he talks about his life and how he does. One minute he's in the gym, next minute he's in a meeting, next minute he's going to New York. I'm like, I want that life. So yeah, that's why I would choose him. He's incredible from what I see.
What words your friends would use to describe you?
Oh my god. Oh, I don't know. It depends on the friend. Maybe ask Liam, but I would
Let's take
say,
your
yeah,
closest friend.
my closest friends. Can I choose two?
Go
No.
for it. Go for it.
Passionate. I think I kind of radiate passion. Like I just get carried away. And the second thing is that this was described by an old school teacher of both Liam and I. I was described as in my UCAS statement as a flaneur, which a flaneur is someone who darts back and forth between different ideas and likes linking things together. And maybe my friends can attest, but I like linking like different. Like, I like linking what you learn from like I don't know politics into salsa, or like what you can learn in one thing to another. So I would say yeah, a passionate flaneur, if that it makes sense.
No, that's a pretty unique one. Best advice you've ever received?
Oh God, if you can make it worse, you can make it better. That's what I would
That's
say.
actually a really good one.
Yeah,
That's a really good one.
yeah.
Best book you've ever read?
Oh, that's too many. Um, can I give three? No.
You know, go for it. I was gonna say only
Right.
one, but since
All right.
I'll allow
All
three.
right. Non-fiction, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Fiction, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Um, and actually, yeah, I'll just say, and politics. Actually, no, I'll just choose those two. Fiction, Dostoevsky.
What are you reading at the moment? What's your current
I'm
work?
reading Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've
Very
only read a
topical.
little bit of it. And to be fair, I've been in a bit of a reading slump. I
Yeah,
started
yeah,
like reading some books, and then I'm like, I don't have the attention span for this. I don't have
yeah.
time. But I'm trying to
Just to
read
clarify to the reader, so that's JD Vance,
Running Mate.
the running mate for Donald Trump in the election.
Maybe next vice president, or may not
Maybe
be. We'll find out in a week. Yeah.
interesting
Since
choice.
since we're
Interesting.
on this topic, who wins?
Who wait? Oh God. I actually don't know. I keep changing my mind. So earlier this week, I was like, "Oh, Kamala, I think she'll win." Just, but actually, I think Trump never write Trump off. I mean, we've seen since this sounds like a political commentary now, but like January the 6th, I feel everyone just forgot about. I forgot about it, and then I was like, "Oh shit, this was quite bad." But so many people clearly haven't even like clearly don't care about that because Trump is mobilizing voters that you never think he would, and I think you should pay attention to that. So I think it's too close to call. I think either could win plausibly. I actually have no idea. Oh, I was actually more confident a week ago. Now I can't tell you.
That's fair. That's fair. I was gonna force it out onto our view, but fair enough.
I'm a politics student, so I'm never going to answer your questions properly.
Okay, cool. That's the end of the section. The shareholders are very satisfied with the answers.
Oh,
If you
good,
had to
good.
summarize your experience, how would it be?
The adventure of my life. That's how I would describe it.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
And an
Look,
adventure which has more to come.
Yeah, well, that's the exciting thing. I'm like, if this is what good feels like at the minute, now things are good, touch wood. I'm like I want more. But again, I've realized, okay, if I have to work even harder then, right? And then the cool thing about an adventure is it's in its ups and downs. There are good days, there are bad days. Luckily for me now, there are less bad days than there were before. But they come. But then it's like you just keep putting the work in, you'll go. Apparent is what I'm told. And I believe it. I really believe that you have the agency to make it better. And that's what an adventure is, right? You don't know where you're going to go, but that's the exciting thing. If there's hope and the right things in that you're aiming for, if that makes sense.
well, Vinay, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the
Likewise,
podcast.
thank you. Yeah,
We've really enjoyed it. I know I've learned a lot out of it. I'm sure Liam has too.
that's
So,
good. Yeah,
Mr. Villani, what can we expect in our, upcoming episodes?
We've got a very special guest coming in next week. We're doing a bit of a 360, right? We're still the same topics as our general theme, but a bit more different to today's sort of non-profits sort of focus and free speech. So we're going into the depths of finance, aren't we, Sharia?
Yeah,
Next
exactly.
week,
We've got a real estate
depths of finance.
investor, don't we?
Yeah. So
P,
should we?
sorry.
I will do an announcement probably mid this week, right? So if people keep in touch with the social medias, but yeah, if you have any questions about real estate, investing, venture capital, finance, anything along those lines, please, yeah, just send us a message, and we'll try and raise some of those questions and points next week. But I just wanted to thank Vinay as well. Firstly, I've known him for a bit of time, and we always have these chats personally.
yes.
Like we can talk and debate further, and I
We
would always
spent
like
5 days in Spain talking non-stop, literally doing
non-stop.
nothing and just talking
There's
about
a lot
stuff.
to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
always with him. It's great to now have this recorded and shared across the world, hopefully. So it's good. But Vinay, how do people get in touch
Yes,
with you? Are you have you got like a LinkedIn account which
yes.
people sort of reach out to you if they got
Yeah, it's just my name, which is Vinay Kapoor. And if you just type, because as everyone might have put, there are a lot of Indians with my name. So you'll probably get some random guy from like Mumbai or something, which is not me. So just type my name and then Warwick, and then it will come
right?
up.
Yeah.
And
And then
yeah,
Speakeasy's
yes,
social media
Instagram.
handles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Instagram at Warwick Speakeasy. Go and follow it. We're also on LinkedIn. We probably need more followers on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so yeah, please get in touch. They're also really sort of engaging organization. So if there's any sort of corporates or sort of outside organizations out there who want to get in touch, want to work with them, see what they can do, just go and have a chat with them. They're open. They're open and they want to engage. So yeah,
nice
to anyone
plug.
out
Thank
there
you.
listening,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
really
Cool.
Yeah, you know where to find Vinay. You know where to find us. Thank you, Vinay. We've really loved
Thanks,
having
Vinay.
Thank
you
you very
on.
much.
Perfect. Thanks, Vinay.